The sound of a shattered porcelain plate echoed through the grand ballroom like thunder. Every guest froze. Crystal chandeliers glittered above a room filled with luxury, but no one noticed the wealth anymore. Their eyes were fixed on a young woman kneeling on the cold marble floor, desperately gathering the broken pieces with trembling hands while tears rolled down her cheeks. At that exact moment, billionaire Alastair Hawthorne looked at the worn silver locket hanging around her neck, and his entire world came crashing down. It was the very same locket he had placed around his newborn daughter's neck 22 years earlier, before fate cruelly tore them apart. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Heartline Stories if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives forever. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories to life. It was a bright spring afternoon, and sunlight poured through the enormous windows of Hawthorne Manor, one of the most luxurious estates in the country. The mansion buzzed with activity as influential guests celebrated Alastair Hawthorne's 60th birthday. Politicians, celebrities, business leaders, and wealthy investors filled every corner of the elegant hall. Expensive laughter echoed beneath golden chandeliers while violin music floated softly through the air. Everything appeared perfect on the outside, but deep inside, Alastair carried a pain that no amount of money had ever healed. 22 years earlier, his wife had died shortly after giving birth to their baby girl during a devastating accident while traveling overseas. In the chaos that followed, the infant disappeared. Despite spending millions on investigators, private detectives, and international searches, there was never a single clue. Newspapers eventually stopped printing the story. Friends encouraged him to move on. His business empire expanded across continents, yet every birthday, every Christmas, and every lonely evening reminded him that success meant nothing without the child he never got to hold again. Meanwhile, far away from luxury, that little girl had grown into a young woman named Marina Ellis. She never knew where she came from. Raised in overcrowded shelters and temporary foster homes, she learned early that life offered no guarantees. Some families welcomed her briefly before sending her away. Others treated her as free labor instead of family. Still, Marina never allowed hardship to harden her heart. She believed honest work carried dignity, even if others looked down upon it. By the age of 22, Marina worked multiple cleaning jobs simply to afford a tiny apartment and basic meals. She quietly dreamed of studying nursing one day because she wanted to care for people who had nobody else. Every dollar she earned was carefully saved after paying rent. She skipped dinners more often than she admitted, choosing hope over comfort. 1 week before the birthday celebration, Hawthorne Manor hired extra cleaning staff for the massive event. Marina accepted the temporary position without knowing whose mansion she would enter. To her, it was simply another day's work. Throughout the morning, she polished marble floors, dusted priceless paintings, and arranged elegant dining rooms while invisible to the wealthy guests surrounding her. Some servants smiled kindly. Others warned her not to make mistakes because the mansion's owner expected perfection. As evening arrived, hundreds of distinguished guests filled the ballroom. Marina quietly carried a tray of delicate porcelain dishes across the polished floor. At that exact moment, another worker accidentally bumped into her shoulder. The tray slipped from her hands. The crash silenced the room. Broken porcelain scattered across the marble floor. Embarrassed beyond words, Marina immediately dropped to her knees, apologizing while carefully collecting every sharp fragment before anyone could get hurt. Whispered conversation spread among the guests. Some stared with pity. Others with irritation. A woman in an emerald evening gown laughed cruelly and pointed toward the frightened cleaner as though she were entertainment. Then Alastair stepped forward. His expression showed disappointment at first. But everything changed the instant Marina reached across the floor. The silver locket hanging from her neck swung into the light. Time stopped. His heartbeat pounded louder than the shattered dishes. That tiny locket carried a unique engraving hidden inside, a small star beside the initials, A.H. He had personally commissioned it from an old family jeweler decades ago. Only one had ever existed. His hands began trembling. Memories rushed back like unstoppable waves. The hospital. His wife's final smile. The baby wrapped in a white blanket. The necklace fastened around her tiny neck. Without realizing it, tears filled his eyes. Marina looked up, confused by the elderly billionaire staring at her with overwhelming emotion. She instinctively apologized again, believing she was about to lose her job. Instead, Alistair gently asked where she had gotten the necklace. Marina explained that she had worn it for as long as she could remember. The orphanage caretaker once told her she arrived wearing only that necklace and wrapped inside an old blanket with no identification. The room became completely silent. Alistair immediately contacted the private investigator who had spent years searching for clues. DNA testing was arranged without delay. The next 48 hours felt endless. Marina struggled to understand why strangers suddenly treated her with kindness. She feared disappointment more than poverty. Her entire life had taught her not to expect miracles. Finally, the laboratory confirmed the impossible. She was Alistair Hawthorne's biological daughter. The billionaire who had negotiated billion-dollar deals without emotion completely broke down. Years of grief poured out in uncontrollable tears as he embraced the daughter he had searched for across half the world. Wealthy guests who had witnessed countless glamorous events found themselves wiping away tears at a reunion no one believed could happen. For Marina, the truth felt overwhelming. She had spent years wondering why nobody wanted her, only to discover that someone had been searching for her every single day. Life changed dramatically, but not because of money. Alistair offered her luxury, expensive cars, designer clothes, and every comfort imaginable. Marina accepted only what she needed. She asked for something far more meaningful. She wanted an education. She wanted to become the nurse she had always dreamed of becoming. Deeply moved by her humility, Alistair funded nursing scholarships for hundreds of underprivileged students in her mother's memory. Together they transformed part of Hawthorne Manor into a charitable foundation supporting orphan children, struggling single parents, and homeless young adults seeking education. Marina never forgot where she came from. Even after becoming one of the wealthiest young women in the country, she continued visiting shelters every month. She sat beside frightened children, listened to their stories, and reminded them that their beginnings would never define their future. The ballroom where she once knelt in humiliation became the very place where annual charity dinners raised millions for vulnerable families. Every polished marble floor reminded Alistair that true wealth was never measured in mansions or bank accounts, but in the people we refused to give up on. Years later, visitors entering Hawthorne Manor noticed one unusual photograph hanging in the entrance hall. It did not show business awards or luxury celebrations. Instead, it captured a simple moment, a frightened young cleaner kneeling beside broken porcelain while an elderly father reached out with tears in his eyes. That picture reminded everyone who entered that compassion can rewrite destinies, forgiveness can heal decades of pain, and love never truly stops searching. If this story touched your heart, please write in the comments, "Love always finds its way." Your words may inspire someone who is losing hope today. As the sun set behind Hawthorne Manor that evening, father and daughter stood together watching the golden light stretch across the gardens. Neither spoke very much because some miracles are too beautiful for words. They simply stood side by side, grateful that even after 22 painful years, destiny had finally brought them home. If this emotional journey moved you, please like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Thank you for being part of a community that believes every act of kindness has the power to change a life forever.